Russia continues barbarically destroying Ukrainian territory and killing civilians. One of the bloodiest attacks by the Russian occupiers in recent months was the shelling of the Hroza village in Kharkiv region. As a result of the missile strike, 59 people were killed.
Our husbands are brothers and we were daughters-in-law. She was the person I talked to for 48 times a day. She was a friend, a sister, a soulmate and a piece of my heart. I don't know how to live without her now.
The shelling of the railway station in Kramatorsk and the shopping center in Kremenchuk, the bombing of the center of Chernihiv and the maternity hospital in Mariupol, the deportation of Ukrainian children to Russia, the detention of the entire village in the basement of a school in Yahidne, the persecution of people and detention centers in Kherson and Kharkiv regions, the occupation of Chernobyl nuclear power plant and the hospital in Mykolaiv. This is only a small part of the crimes that the Kremlin's army has committed in Ukraine.
It was such a horror. 350 people were locked in the basement. Each of them had 60 square centimeters. You could sit on a chair and that's it. I call it the cellar of death. There was no air. Those who were weaker were the first to suffocate. They simply went mad. These were people from a village. It was such a horror that a normal person could never imagine it, even in the worst nightmare.
Occupation of the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, blowing up of the Kakhovka dam. Russia's invasion of Ukraine was the biggest crime against humanity in Europe after the Second World War. This is why today the world continues facing the main task of bringing the aggressor to justice. The return of justice, this is the name of the seventh point of the peace formula presented by the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelenskyy. It includes a tribunal for those guilty of aggression and compensation for damage.
This is the direct criminal responsibility of the leadership of the Russian Federation, which is responsible for the crimes of aggression against Ukraine, as well as the servicemen of the Russian Federation who committed the crimes. The next aspect is the direct responsibility of the Russian Federation as a state. We can consider at least two cases that the International Court in The Hague is currently considering. The case on recognizing Russia as a state that has violated international law, and another aspect, which is also important, is compensation.
We shall remind you that in early July, the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly approved a resolution to set up a special tribunal to hold Russia accountable for the war crimes committed in Ukraine. The group that is working on the creation of the tribunal includes 37 countries. According to the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry, the special tribunal should bring to justice about 20 representatives of the Russian political and military leadership.
The crime of aggression is an elitist offense. It can only be committed by those who are in office or actually in a position to give orders to wage a war of aggression, so it is likely it will be put up a tribunal to decide. It could possibly be 20 people. Top representatives of the political and military leadership of the Russian Federation, Anton Korenevich, ambassador at large of the Foreign Ministry of Ukraine, in an interview with the Ukrinform.
Earlier, in March 2023, the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for Putin and Maria Lvova-Belova, the Russian Presidential Commissioner for Children's Rights. They are suspected of illegally deporting children from the occupied territories of Ukraine to the Federation.
Punishment for those who did it. The whole system works for that. Those who committed these crimes against dignity, against humanity, but also the punishment of those who gave orders to do it, who saw but turned away.
At the same time, the Ukrainian authorities want an international court to be set up, following the example of the Nuremberg Tribunal after the Second World War. In addition, the government insists on handing over all frozen Russian assets to Ukraine, which will be used to rebuild the country.
Our allies, in particular the USA, are handing over the frozen assets of oligarchs and the central banks to us. But it should be understood that now they are handing over only corrupt assets, while we demand that they hand over absolutely all assets of Russia to us. And it does not matter what their origin is. It is enough that they belong to the aggressor state. Belgium will hand over money and property of Russia on their territory.
We would like to remind you that since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, sanctions imposed by United States and Europe have frozen about 300 billion euros of foreign currency reserves of the Central Bank of Russia worldwide. Reported by Anastasia Tarnavska, Yulia Granovska, UATV News.